Good morning everybody, Car Biker here. What a lovely day it is. Certainly better than yesterday, although yesterday was a beautiful day. It was 22 degrees, it was sunshine, not a cloud in the sky, and I was trapped by a support call that lasted 11 hours. So today, time just to blow a few cobwebs out and relieve a bit of that built up frustration of not being able to ride. Got Graham ahead of me, fully bagged up. He's got his top box and his pannies on. He means business today. He's got a new gimbal and we're going to go and give it a try somewhere. A gimbal for his iPhone, similar to my little DJI Osmo, but different brand, so it should be interesting to see how he gets on with it. I said in a video a little while back, not very long, I don't know if it was the last one or the one before that I had some news, and it's time that I can finally say what my news is. After over 3 years, my insurance claim is finally settled, and I can relax and know what the outcome was, which I'll tell you shortly, and know that I can now do comparison websites for insurance. I couldn't do comparison websites for insurance because they always ask you, what was the value of your claim? And I didn't know that. And also, whose fault was the accident? And I knew what I thought, but the lady that hit me had a different opinion, and that meant that was left open. So always I had to say either it wasn't settled or it counts as my fault, because they take the worst case scenario, which is it's your fault, and then fleece you. So just over 3 years ago, in fact 3 years, a month and a week ago, I was taking a little ride into Scarborough with Mrs. C for a cup of tea, and we came across a very, very, very long queue of traffic. And using the advantage of being on a bike, decided that what I would do is use the right hand side of the road, completely legally, to filter past all the cars. I mean, some people would say it's not filtering because I'm not going in between, so overtaking, filtering, whatever you want to call it. Doing about 10-15 miles an hour, nice and slow, nice and easy. Nothing coming the other way, this massive queue of cars. Leading up to, turns out, traffic lights, probably about 2 miles ahead. It was a huge queue going into Scarborough because it's a seaside resort and it was a lovely day. So we're passing them and quite happily going past. Got my headlamp on, quite to the right hand side because obviously I want to be as visible as possible. And ahead, how far ahead? When at this white van kind of distance from where I am now, probably about now, I noticed there was a side road on the right, so I decided I'm going to find my gap, I'm going to pull back into the flow of traffic, because I don't want to be overtaking when there's a side road there, have somebody pull out of it or something, or somebody pull into it. And as I start pulling across to the left, I'm alongside completely stationary cars, and then suddenly one of them, the one that I happen to be alongside, just turned right. I say turned right, just pulled out of the flow of traffic. They had nowhere to turn right. I guess they'd also got bored of being in the queue and decided that they were going to skip ahead past a bunch of cars and then turn right down the side street that I was coming back into the flow of cars to avoid. So with not enough notice for me to do anything, I was kind of alongside the back of the car. They just turned right. My foot peg, well actually the first thing to hit was the handlebars, went along the side of the car at window level, and then my foot peg scratched down the side of their car until it finally hit either the wheel or the front wheel or the plastics at the front, at which point, I'm assuming it must have been the wheel that actually hit, at which point my foot on top of the foot peg hit something and my foot broke my foot peg off. My foot hurt afterwards, as you might imagine. Luckily nothing broken in there. That left me hanging down the left hand side of the bike as the bike carried on travelling forwards with me and Mrs. C on it. and we kind of veered to the right a bit, mainly because the handlebars were being pushed back to the left by the car, so we veered to the right a bit with a bit of counter steerage, and then high-sided. Luckily we weren't going at high speed. Mrs. C got trapped under the bike. Part of the bike went through her boot and into her leg, which she ended up with a cut and a bit of an infection in the end, but everything was alright on that in the end. And I went down with a thump with the bike on top of me, with my head, because I'd gone down the side of the bike after having my foot nearly taken off. I had my head down the side of the bike landed on my head, slammed me into the ground, and gave me 6 breaks to my collarbone, which still hurts 3 years, a month and a week after, as you might imagine. My main concern at the time was I wriggled out from under the bike. I had to get Mrs. C out from under the bike. It was very hard to lift the bike because I knew my arm was broken, or my collarbone was broken. I was trying to lift the bike with one hand, and I'm not that strong. Somebody came along and helped me. We got Mrs. C out, made sure she was okay, nothing seriously broken or anything. Took photos of everything for the insurance claim, and then ambulance turned up and took us off to hospital to be fixed, or rather looked at and then sent away, and I referred to private and got fixed. The next part was the insurance claim. So I got onto the insurance as soon as I got out of the hospital. Basically I was in the hospital for about 7 hours because big waiting lists. This was before the pandemic as well. I hate to think I've probably been in there 24 hours, wouldn't I now? So I was in there 7 hours, headed home, went to bed because it was middle of the night by then, and following morning rang the insurance company, told them what happened, and we started the process of insurance. And that has been one of the most painful exercises ever. Insurance basically took all the details, said fair enough, do you want a courtesy bike? I said don't think I'll be riding one one-handed, and said okay, we'll deal with it. Would you like to be referred on to a solicitor? I said yes, and the solicitor then took over the claim. Within about a week I got a letter. Yeah, one in paper email. I got a paper email with a stamp on it and everything from the other party's solicitor, and I think they were playing games. Let me know what you think. Their letter basically said, on this date you drove your motorbike into our client, you haven't admitted liability, you must now admit liability and pay my client's excess of however many hundreds of pounds. Which I referred straight to my solicitor, who said, we're not having that. I'm going to, what they said afterwards, I have written strongly refuting it and saying we don't accept liability, which is good. I had to fill in all my forms for the insurance company. I had to fill in all the forms again for the solicitor. There was a lot of questions, all that kind of thing. And then the solicitor said, right, we've got a message from the other side. They're saying that they deny all responsibility. It is 100% your fault. So we'll start the process rolling of making our case. And then everything kind of went quiet for a while. The solicitor said it had to be referred on to another solicitor because he was basically just handling the start of the case and it would be referred on. And it just went quiet. Went quiet for about 6 months. Then I contacted the solicitor and said what's going on. I got a message back saying the solicitor that was involved was no longer with the case. The one that had been passed over to had left the business, and it got referred to another solicitor. Had a couple of telephone conversations with them, and nothing had changed really. They were still saying it was 100% my fault, all that kind of thing. Then it went quiet again. Another few months, maybe 6 months passed. Rang the solicitor again, exactly the same. Been referred to another solicitor. They'd be in contact. I talked to that one for some length, and they were saying that it could well be a big claim because of the medical bills involved. The surgery on my shoulder turned out was about £7,000, and to get the evidence for that to put into the case, they actually have to agree to pay that cost, or to have that cost made part of the case, so that if I win I have to pay that £7,000 back. And then it carried on again. Then I got told, because of the value of the case and the complexity of the case, it had to be referred to a different group of solicitors, so it got referred to somebody else. Talked to them. The other side still refuting all responsibility, say it was entirely my fault. Then we got to probably 2 years through the case, and they said they were going to refer it on to yet another solicitor, and I was getting quite frustrated by that point. However, the next solicitor who got involved was the original one who was talking to me, lovely chap called Gareth, who it turns out also rides a motorbike. And I have to say, he was brilliant from then on, talking to me every few weeks, keeping me updated via email and letter and following everything up. Anyway, he got in contact with the other side. This is kind of 2 years in, and he came back to me and he said, bit of news for you, things have changed. They're now saying, after referring it all through their insurance and solicitor and everything, they're now saying that they will accept 50% liability if we accept 50% liability. Now after 2 years I was thinking, just to have this over with, I've now insured this bike twice without being able to really do comparisons or get the best deal, because I've got the, well, things I said about earlier with this claim that's unknown hanging over me. I've also had to insure the car twice on the same basis. This is all costing me money and hassle. And also, after 2 years of it being there that they say it's entirely my fault, you start to doubt yourself, don't you? You start to think, well, could I have done something differently? Could I have ridden better? Could I have spotted it coming? So I was kind of thinking, well, this is a positive thing. Maybe this is where it all ends. Anyway, the solicitor said, here's my advice. We'll probably have to accept some liability on this, but I don't think 50% is fair. So I think we shouldn't accept this. We should just carry on. And I thought, well, he's the expert. I'll go with it. So this carried on, a bit of toing and froing, a bit more evidence gathering, and it carried on and on and on until we were about 2 years and 11 months from the accident. And he got in contact with me with a big official letter saying, things are now changing. After 3 years, you're no longer allowed to take people to court. That's a big pothole. Unless you've already started the process of taking them to court. And his advice was, start court proceedings, which, to be fair, I have to say, worried me greatly. The reason it worried me was from something I'd talked to Danny about a while ago when he had his big accident. And he had to settle with the majority of the fault lying with the person who drove into him, on the basis that if it went to court and he ended up with the wrong solicitor, the wrong judge, a judge who didn't like bikes, it could go worse for him. So, you know, I didn't really relish the idea of it. But the solicitor said that the best thing to do was to start court proceedings, so that's what I did. So he sent all the court paperwork through. I signed my life away under the details of the threat of perjury and all that kind of stuff if I lied. And we sent that off. And about a fortnight later, my solicitor emailed me and said, here's an update on the case for you. The other side has admitted 100% liability for the accident, and they've made an offer, and they've offered a certain amount of money in compensation, of which 7,000 would cover the medical bills, and then there was a bit more to pay for the bike, the gear, and a bit of compensation for the injury. And they're also going to pay all of the legal costs, so it will cost you zero, and you will get this amount of money to pay for all the bits and pieces. So it seems that it took almost 3 years. There's a pheasant up there. Oh, and it's gone. Just saw that pheasant going right in front of the bike. Yeah, it took almost 3 years of her denying responsibility and then saying 50-50. Then the threat of court action, she caved in immediately. Now, annoyingly, I was waiting for the results of a CT scan because there was a concern that perhaps my shoulder had not fully healed and that I might need another operation. There were 2 possible operations. There was a thought that the plate might be becoming loose, in which case I'd need an operation to remove it. But there was also a consideration that the plate might be firmly in place but that the bones hadn't fully healed, in which case I'd need a much bigger operation to take a piece of bone out of my pelvis and graft it into my shoulder to kind of push it along to heal. Because that was all organised through the solicitor, it was counted as a legal cost. And because I didn't have the results yet, it meant that there were more legal costs to come. So if I accepted the offer, I'd have to not get the results of the CT scan because that would be a greater legal cost and then it wouldn't be paid for. So I actually requested an extension to their offer to see if we could get the results back in time. And we got a 2-week extension. The results went back after a week and a half, but then funnily enough, their side requested an extension to prepare their defence. So we gave them that extension and my results came back in the time of their extension. So I finally accepted the offer. So as of 2 days ago, when I sent off the paperwork to accept the offer, that's all now over. So my good news is my court case is finally over. Well, not court case, my insurance claim is finally over without a court case. I didn't need to go to court. I didn't need to accept any liability. The game is finished and I can finally get on with my life. Awesome. Anyway, thanks for watching everyone. I guess me and Graham here are about to try his gimbal. Thanks for watching, ride safe, and I'll talk to you all again soon.